All right, today we're diving into one of the body's most overlooked yet absolutely vital networks, the lymphatic system. We're going to cover its structure, its key functions, and, of course, what happens when things go wrong with a close look at a condition called lymphangitis.
So, let me ask you a couple of questions right off the bat. Ever wonder what mysterious system keeps fluid from just pooling in your feet after a long day? Or how a tiny, seemingly harmless cut on your finger can suddenly explode into a serious medical emergency? Well, the answer to both of those questions is the lymphatic system, and by the end of this, you'll know exactly why.
So let's start with the big picture. Why does this system even matter? Well, it turns out it's way more than just a simple drainage network. It has three critical functions that make it a true unsung hero of our bodies. This breaks it down perfectly. First, you've got fluid balance. Think of it like a sophisticated sponge system, constantly soaking up excess fluid from our tissues to prevent swelling. Second, there's immune defense. It's like a security network, always on patrol, filtering out bacteria, viruses, and other junk. And third, fat absorption. This one's a bit surprising to some, but it's essential for getting fats from our diet into our body. These three jobs are running 24/7, keeping us in balance.
Now, let's put a number on that fluid balance role. Every single day, about 10% of the fluid that seeps out of our blood capillaries doesn't make it back in on its own. It's this crucial 10% that the lymphatic system has to pick up and return to the circulation. Without it, we'd swell up like a balloon in a condition called edema. So yeah, you can think of this system as our body's built-in flood prevention.
So how does this whole system actually work? Let's get into the nitty-gritty of how lymph is formed and, maybe even more interesting, how it moves all through the body without a central pump like the heart.
So first, what exactly is lymph? Well, it's basically just filtered blood plasma that has leaked out to bathe our cells. It's mostly water, sure, but it's also carrying around important cargo like proteins and our key immune cells, the lymphocytes. Now here's a cool twist. When it's carrying fats absorbed from our intestine, it's called chill, and it actually looks milky. Fluid gets into the system through these incredible little structures, the lymphatic capillaries. They're blind-ended, which just means they start right there in the tissues. Their walls are made of these overlapping cells that act like tiny one-way swinging doors. When the pressure outside gets high, the doors swing open and let fluid in. But if the pressure inside is higher, they swing shut, trapping the fluid and preventing it from leaking back out. Pretty clever design.
And that unique design leads to this crucial clinical point. Because these capillaries are built to suck up large things like proteins, when they fail, all that protein gets trapped in the tissue. This leads to a very specific kind of swelling called protein-rich edema, or lymphedema. It's a dead giveaway that the lymphatic system is in trouble. This shows the entire one-way trip. Fluid leaves the tissues, slips into a capillary, travels through larger and larger vessels, gets filtered through at least one lymph node, which is a critical step, and finally gets dumped back into the bloodstream near the heart. It's a really comprehensive cleaning and recycling process.
Now let's talk about the immune role. I love this analogy of training versus battlefield. It just clicks. The primary organs, that's your bone marrow and thymus, they're the training grounds. This is where our immune soldiers, the B cells and T cells, grow up and learn their jobs. Then, the secondary organs, like lymph nodes and the spleen, those are the battlefields. That's where these trained cells go to encounter pathogens and launch an attack.
And a lymph node isn't just a simple filter. It's a highly organized command center. The immune cells are positioned in very specific zones to make sure the response is fast and coordinated. You've got B cells in the cortex, T cells in the paracortex, and plasma cells down in the medulla, all working together to neutralize any threats that come through. Okay, so all of this collected lymph has to get back into the blood, and it does that through two main ducts. The thoracic duct is the big one, the major player. It drains about 75% of the body. The much smaller right lymphatic duct handles the rest. This lopsided drainage pattern is super important clinically because it tells you the predictable route that an infection or even cancer might spread from a specific part of the body. All right, let's take a quick pause here. See if you can remember the three main functions we just covered. I'll give you a second. Okay, did you get them? Fluid balance, immune defense, and fat absorption. If you got those, you're doing great.
So we've seen how elegant and essential this system is when it's working properly. But because it's so complex, things can definitely go wrong. So what happens when this drainage system fails? Let's switch gears to the clinical side and look at two key conditions.
First up is lymphedema. This is that buildup of protein-rich fluid we mentioned earlier. The key sign you'll see is non-pitting edema. That means if you press your finger on the swollen area, it won't leave a dent. And why is that? It's because that high concentration of protein makes the tissue feel firm and almost dense.
Next, we have lymphangitis. This is an acute infection of the lymphatic vessels themselves. It almost always starts with a simple cut or a break in the skin that allows bacteria to get in and then spread like wildfire up these lymphatic channels.
And these are the classic signs you're looking for. The number one cause by far is group A streptococcus. The patient will typically have these painful red streaks moving up a limb from wherever the infection started. And this is usually paired with fever, chills, and tender swollen lymph nodes in that region.
Now this is a critical clinical pearl. You have to remember this. These red streaks are not inflamed veins. That's a different condition called phlebitis. No, these streaks are inflamed lymphatic vessels, and they follow the direct path of lymphatic drainage toward the nearest lymph nodes. Getting this distinction right is absolutely key for a correct diagnosis.
The good news is managing this is pretty straightforward, but it is urgent. You've got to start antibiotics immediately to kill the bacteria. Elevating the limb helps with drainage and reduces the swelling. And of course, you have to treat the original cut or wound and provide supportive care. You want to jump on this early to prevent really serious complications like sepsis.
Okay, let's wrap things up with a rapid-fire review of the most critical, high-yield points from everything we've just covered.
First, never forget this fundamental difference. The lymphatic system has no central pump. Its flow is totally passive. It completely relies on our body's movements, our muscles contracting, our breathing, to get the job done.
Second, remember the anatomy. The thoracic duct is the big one. It drains 3/4 of the body. That asymmetrical drainage pattern is a key anatomical fact you need to know.
And finally, from a clinical perspective, if you see those classic red streaks on a patient, your number one suspect has to be group A streptococcus. That's the bug you need to target.
So I'll leave you with one last thing to think about. We know the lymphatic system is a highway for our immune cells, but it can also be a highway for unwanted passengers, like cancer cells and bacteria. So how does really understanding the map of this hidden circulatory system change how we approach fighting both cancer metastasis and systemic infections? It's something to really consider.